guys, so today I'm going to kind of tell my story on how I became a fan of Andrew McMahon. I'm also sporting my Jack's Mannequin shirt because I am talking about his band and his music, and I just thought it was appropriate. Some of my viewers don't believe that I am in my mid-20s. I just turned 26. I know I still look like I'm 20, but that's probably a good thing, right? Right. Flashback to about 10 or 11 years ago, I was in high school and I was kind of going through like my punk rock phase, and I wanted to listen to music that wasn't on the radio, and I kind of wanted to discover different bands. I don't know if there are any alternative music lovers out there, but I loved like The Starting Line, I loved Daphne Loves Derby, and I was just discovering all these bands like 30 Seconds to Mars and, you know, all those bands. If you know who I'm talking about, then you probably were on the same level as me in high school. But one day I got a MP3 player. It was either for Christmas or my birthday. It was not one of the iPods yet. It was literally an MP3 player that you would flick your hand to the next song, and it was just like a little button, and I would plug it into the computer and download music to it, and that is how I got my music. And how I kind of would be discovering bands was from like MySpace Music, and I would go to, I don't know, it was like alternativeplaylist.com, I don't know, something like that, and I would just find all these songs and I would just listen to them all and memorize all the lyrics. Well, I don't know how it happened, but I had my MP3 and I would load music, and one day I remember I was sitting in math class and I'm just like, you know what, I'm going to play, it was called She Paints Me Blue by Something Corporate, and if you are an Andrew McMahon fan, you know what song I'm talking about, but I'm just like, I'm just going to play this song. When we were taking our math test or a quiz or something like that, we could listen to our MP3s. It was like a huge thing in school. I played She Paints Me Blue, and then I also had Watch the Sky and I Woke Up in a Car on there, and those are all by Something Corporate, and I just fell in love with the band, and I was like, okay, I need to research this band, find out what they're about, and I was just like doing that, seeing their background and where they came from and everything. And so I kind of was studying the band, and I found this guy named Andrew McMahon, and I was like, he has a pretty good voice. I mean, it's a different voice, but it's pretty good, and I just wanted to kind of learn more about him. So I found out that he had a band called Jack's Mannequin. I remember this is like 10 or 11 years ago. It was probably when Jack's Mannequin was in the middle of their career, or the beginning, I want to say. But I went out, and after I heard he had a CD, and you know, like, awesome, this guy has a whole CD, he has a different band. So I got the Everything in Transit CD, and this is my favorite album of all time. And it is cracked. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it is cracked on the plastic. And this album is just, I don't know, I can't even explain it. He just had a reunion tour with this album. I went last year and it was the best concert of my life. Everybody in the whole venue was like screaming the words to every song, and it was like everybody was your relative in the crowd, like, hey, you know, because we're all fans. And it was like people my age, you know, and everything. So I'm like, these people are awesome. So I started listening to this, and it is actually a story from start to finish. If you listen to the whole thing from start to finish, it's like his mixtape, which there is a song called The Mixtape on here. But I love this album. I know every single lyric, every single word. If you put this on, I will just start screaming it. I just get insane. But anyways, this is the album that made me fall in love with his music, and I think a lot of Andrew McMahon fans would say this is their go-to album if they have to choose one album, which would be awful, but it would be this one because it's just such a good story, and he put so much work into this. And I start kind of researching him, not like in a creepy way or anything, but kind of researching the band, and I find out that he actually had been diagnosed with leukemia. And I think about the time I found out that he did, he was in remission, I believe, so I knew that he was going to be okay, or, you know, at least hoping he was going to be okay. But I knew that I wanted to kind of follow this guy because he wasn't just like this random artist that, you know, he's like, oh, let's put a track out, let's put another track out. I could tell that behind the scenes he was really thinking about, okay, how are we going to put this CD together? What are my lyrics going to be? I'm going to sit down at my piano and really think about this. That started my fandom of Jack's Mannequin, Something Corporate, Andrew McMahon, whatever you want to call it. Andrew McMahon was in every single band, and let's see, that was my sophomore year, I believe, that I started listening to a lot of punk stuff. My senior year of high school was not like a typical senior year, like, yeah, we're gonna graduate, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. When it came to, I want to say the mid-November, I was on this like hike with my creative writing group, and I started like breathing heavy and kind of feeling like I had asthma. And I did have slight asthma when I was a kid, but nothing had ever happened from, when I was 5 until I was like 17 at the time. So I'm like walking up this hill, and I'm kind of like, man, I'm out of breath. And I'm not telling anybody around me because I don't want to be like, guys, I'm out of breath, because people would be like, well, you're just out of shape. But it wasn't that kind of feeling. It was kind of like there was pressure in my chest. And when I got back to the bus and we started eating and drinking water, I felt a lot better. And I kind of even remember like dozing off a little bit, because this was like an hour or two away from our school that we went on this hike. So we came back, and I noticed in the next few weeks I started getting really exhausted, and I didn't even want to like walk up from my bed to like the living room, and I didn't want to walk down the halls to my classes. Like I just felt like I couldn't move and go on. So they took me into the doctor, and the doctor right away was like, it's depression, which I never felt depressed in my life. I've had a lot of anxiety in my life, but I've never felt like worthless or, stuff like that. So I was like, I don't think it's depression. Like I kept telling my parents, it's not depression. I don't think I'm depressed. And so we went back in the doctor, like back and forth, like 2 or 3 times. I was on antidepressants as well, because, they're like, oh, it's depression. They just throw you meds. I was like, this is not depression. So we went back in there, and we kind of demanded like, hey, she needs some tests, because this is not working out, and like her meds are not her. The doctor kind of talks to my parents, talks to me, and he's like, you know what, we're going to admit her to the heart hospital. And I was like, what? Because you don't think, like, when someone says it's your heart, it's kind of like, what did you just say? I'm in the heart hospital, and they're trying to figure out what's going on with me, if there's something going on with me, why I feel this way, etc. And I was kind of pulled away from my senior year for a few weeks, and I lost a lot of weight because I was in a hospital, just everything. I wasn't like involved a lot in my school because I was kind of a little wallflower, but I still had like my little groups, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like everybody noticed I was gone or anything like that. So I had a few friends, contact me like, are you okay? And then I had a boyfriend at the time that would come back and forth, but I never really felt like somebody was really connecting with me at that point in my life. Either on this iPod, and I still have my wheel iPod, isn't that so cool? It was either on this iPod, or if I had an iPhone at the time, that I listened to Everything in Transit over and over and over again. And it was just kind of comforting, because if you're in a hospital, you're literally in there all day. You eat, the meals they give you. If you don't get a lot of visitors, you're just kind of there. You can't get up, you can't walk around, you can't run outside. So I had this, or, an iPhone, and I just had it playing. And between tests, I'd take out my earbuds, and then I'd go back, listen to the music again. And I just remember, like, even though this isn't a story of, how to get well or how to be happy. It was just kind of like his music was there, even if it wasn't like a story that applied to me. I don't know if that makes sense. So come to find out, I was actually diagnosed with a minor heart condition. It was not life-threatening. I just really have to take care of myself. I've been doing that since I got diagnosed, and that's been like 8-9 years now, but I have to drink water, I can't have caffeine, and I have to exercise and really just take care of my body and put me first, as selfish as that sounds. I just have to take care of myself so I can feel good on my daily routines and everything like that. After the beginning of listening to something corporate and falling in love with Jack's Mannequin and Everything in Transit just being the staple album of my life and of his music, I went to his first concert that I discovered he was coming, Jack's Mannequin. I want to say I was 19 or 18. I was with one of my best friends at the time, and we were just yelling and screaming the lyrics, and I loved it. So I was like, okay, when I saw him jump off the piano and knew how he performed and how he reacted with the crowd and everything, and that he was a cancer survivor, I was like, this guy is awesome. So that is when I started following him and figuring out, where he's going to be and what he's going to do, what lyrics he's writing, what quotes he's saying, and he was just so inspiring throughout my high school and college years that I was like, this guy, you know, he's probably gonna be doing music a while because he has so much talent, and I'm just gonna follow him and listen to whatever he puts out. In the middle of college, he announced that Jack's Mannequin was no longer. That was his band after something corporate, and I actually got really sad. Then he started to kind of get away from the Jack's Mannequin name and kind of brand himself with his own name, Andrew McMahon, and he added In the Wilderness on his first debut album as just him, and he does have a few other band members on there, but he just kind of wanted it to be Andrew McMahon. And when I listened to that In the Wilderness album, I was like, okay, this guy hasn't lost it. The whole album is kind of like a reflection of the albums before, but every album he does is a different story and is a different time in his life. And I really like that about him because he can have a different dynamic to each album that he puts out. It's kind of transferred to Alex a little bit, my fiance, and our favorite song on there, and kind of our song that we latched onto when we first started dating, is Maps for the Getaway, because we were on our way to a concert a state away of his, and we kind of played that album through and through, and we just kind of were like, you know what, Maps for the Giveaway is kind of like us. It's kind of, you know, a good song, and we really connect with it. So we've made that our song, and we were going to make that our wedding song, but I think it's going to be an Ed Sheeran song now. But my whole story comes full circle now that I've been telling you every single detail of my life, but I went to a concert a state away after we had listened to his album, you know, 3 times through on the road, and we show up to this town that's just so beautiful, and the weather was perfect, and you know, everything was just like, oh, this town is like something that we would love to explore. So we just go out and explore. When we got there, after we got to the hotel, we started walking the town, and it's a littler town, but it's kind of like a subdivision of a bigger town. So we were just walking along, and I was like, maybe we'll meet Andrew, you know, maybe we'll meet Andrew, because I never actually met him until, you know, this day. So this was in 2015. Summer 2015, and I was just walking along, and I'm like, hey, we'll meet him, da-da-da, you know, we're going in and out of these stores, and then all of a sudden I see him, like, you know, probably 20 feet away, 30 feet away, and I told Alex, I was like, that's Andrew, that's Andrew, that's Andrew, and I just, like, make a beeline for him, and he was probably like, oh my gosh, what is this girl doing? But I was just like, I have to tell this guy how important his music has been to me, which he's probably gotten fans to do that, you know, every show because they want to tell him that, but I was like, I have to tell this guy, you know, like, here I go. We kind of meet up in the middle, and I'm like, Andrew, like, I'm just kind of screaming his name, so he's probably like, what do you want, you know? But he was so kind, and he's just as you expect him to be. I don't know if that makes any sense, but just so humble and kind, and, you know, he listens, and he wasn't just like, okay, what do you want, or like snotty or rude, nothing like that. He kind of, told us to like step aside because we were in the middle of the walkway of all these people. So he's like, hey, let's come over here. So he took a minute with us, and I was just like, I just want to let you know that your music got me through a hard time, and I'm really thankful for it and everything that you put out and everything. And he's like, oh my gosh, thank you, you know. And I was like, thank goodness that I got to tell this man this, because he is just my musical idol. I'm not into music or anything, but I just think he is so awesome, and I wanted this little thing right here. It's his star. Yeah, there it's focused. I will put the meaning in the bottom bar below, but that is kind of the Jack's Mannequin symbol. I think he still kind of latches onto it a bit, but I've wanted that on my ankle in a tattoo, little tiny tattoo, for a while now, and I don't know if I want to do it because, you know, it's going to be permanent forever. Yeah, that is why I have this here, and I also have a wall over here of one of his lyrics and some concert tickets, and then a photo as well, so you can tell that I'm a fan when you walk into my room. And I will show you the photo of Alex, him and I when we first met. It's downtown at a mountain town, and yeah, that was the moment that we first met, and it was really cool. I think a lot of the fans can relate with me and know that his music really connects us all, and it's really uplifting when I hear, like, I'm going to put out a new album, or I'm going to put out a new single. It's just, anything he puts out is great to hear, because I know that he loves making music and that he's a survivor, and it's just great to see somebody that passionate and still have it in them. That is my Jax Mannequin, Andrew McMahon, Something Corporate fan story, and I could have told you a lot more, but I don't want to waste any more of your time. If you guys are a fan of him as well, feel free to follow me on Instagram. It's ErinTheInsomniac. My Twitter is ErinTheInsomniac. I do tweet about him a lot, and I do post Jax Mannequin pictures every now and then. I am kind of beauty, thrift, and music related, but I haven't done as many music videos. If you guys want more of these music videos, I would be completely happy to make them. Thank you all so much for watching and listening to my long-winded story, and I'll see you all later. Bye!
Jax Mannequin, Jax Mannequin.